This PeopleSoft Spotlight Series for Cloud Manager is based on Image 11. This video discusses provisioning and managing environments in Cloud Manager. Check out the Spotlight Series page on the PeopleSoft Information Portal for other videos in this series. You can watch them in order or individually depending on where you are in your Cloud Manager implementation. In this video, we will cover provisioning environments, managing nodes, and using a shared file system service. We will start by provisioning environments. Cloud Manager provides a framework to provision and administer the lifecycle of PeopleSoft environments on OCI. PeopleSoft Application Update Images, PRPs, and PeopleTools patches are automatically downloaded to the repository based on the subscription channel selected. The topology defines the infrastructure layout for an environment. The environment template defines the topology to be used when deploying PeopleSoft application DPKs. Self-service users can deploy PeopleSoft environments based on an existing template. Once an environment is deployed, Cloud Manager provides numerous actions to maintain and update the environment. Setting up the repository was demonstrated in the previous Cloud Manager Spotlight session, installing and setting up Cloud Manager. An administrator will subscribe to PeopleSoft channels. All the necessary update images, PRPs, and PeopleTools patches for the subscribed channels are automatically downloaded when they are available. Essentially, a topology defines a set of nodes, which is an abstraction of a virtual machine. For each node in a topology, you will select the shape and disk capacity, as well as the PeopleSoft components and features where applicable. PeopleSoft administrators create topologies for PeopleSoft applications based on their organization requirements. Sign on to Cloud Manager as an administrator and select the topology tile. By default, Cloud Manager is delivered with the following topologies: Lift and Shift DBAS, Pump Full Tier, and Lift and Shift. Before using the delivered topologies, you will need to select the shape and disk capacity for the nodes in the topology. You can clone an existing topology, edit an existing topology, or create a new one. To view or edit the topology, click the topology name or use the arrow on the right of the row you want to view. We will look at Pump Full Tier topology. This topology contains two nodes, one for Full Tier and one for PeopleSoft Client. Notice that the shape has not been defined. Open the Full Tier node and select the VM shape from the drop-down list. You can also change the disk space. The Full Tier node includes Application Server, Web Server, and Process Scheduler. Optionally, you can add the ELK stack, which includes Kibana and Elasticsearch, to the Full Tier node. You also need to select the shape for the Windows client. Save the updated topology. For this demo, we will create a new topology with multiple nodes. This topology will contain 4 nodes: Database, Middle Tier, PeopleSoft Client, and ELK Stack. Provide the name and description. First, we will add a database system node. The operating system is Linux. The environment type is DB Systems. Select the shape and disk space. Next, add the middle tier node. When you add a middle tier node, you can select which tiers to add. For this demo, we will include all 3 tiers in the same node. You also have the option to add COBOL. Next, add the PeopleSoft client node. And lastly, add the ELK stack. We will accept the default to include both Elasticsearch and Kibana. Once we have added all of the nodes, we can save the topology. The new topology is now available. Once your topology is defined, you can create templates. An environment template is a repeatable blueprint used to deploy PeopleSoft environments using Cloud Manager. A template defines the topology to be used when deploying PeopleSoft application DPKs, which get downloaded to the repository. A template also defines environment attributes to enable streamlined deployments. Administrators create the templates that self-service end users use to create PeopleSoft environment instances. Access to templates is managed by defining the security attributes of the template. To create or edit a template, select the Environment Template tile. The lift and shift template is delivered and used during the shift process. We will create a template for the HCM update image. Enter a name and description. The PeopleSoft image drop-down list will display the images available in the repository. Click Next to enter the topology. Select PUM Full Tier Topology since we are creating a PUM source. Note that this is the default topology. You have the option to add additional topologies that can be used with this template. Expand custom attributes to select the custom attributes for the topology. Since multiple topologies are available, select the topology to use and then click the Edit Custom Attributes button. The custom attributes define the default values to use when provisioning an environment with this template. First, you must enter the region and availability domain for the environment that will be provisioned using this template. This includes region, primary availability domain, compartment, and virtual cloud network. Next, we'll look at the full tier settings. In the General Settings section, you want to add a default database operator ID and database name. In this section, you can also add pre- and post custom scripts. Custom scripts will be discussed when we look at using an Oracle Autonomous Linux image. When a user provisions an environment, the user will be able to change the values, so for this demo, we will accept the default values for the other fields. For each node in the template, you must specify the subnet where it will run. Here we have a subnet for full tier. Each availability domain in OCI contains 3 fault domains for high availability. OCI randomizes the availability domains by tenancy to help balance capacity in data centers. You have the option to select a specific fault domain for the node. Full tier includes web server, application server, and process scheduler. You can accept the default values or change them. When the environment is provisioned, the user can also make changes to these values as well. The advanced section contains kernel parameters and ulimit values. Only Linux operating system experts should change these values. We need to configure the PeopleSoft client settings. No changes are required for the general settings as we are not using any custom scripts. The PeopleSoft client will run in the Win subnet. You can also specify which default domain to use for this tier. Next, define the security. Zone is a logical grouping of environments based on their use. For example, all development environments could belong to a development zone, and all testing environments could belong to a testing zone. At this time, Cloud Manager does not use this for any purpose other than categorizing the environments. Zones include test, development, and production. A template can have multiple zones. Several roles and permission lists for Cloud Manager are delivered, as well as the user CLADM. This user account is associated with the Cloud Administrator role and other PeopleSoft administrative roles. An administrator can add new users with PeopleSoft user profile pages by assigning the appropriate role to the user. The administrator can also add additional custom roles. The delivered roles start with PACL. The Cloud Administrator role has access to all Cloud Manager pages. Cloud PeopleSoft Administrator has access to all cloud features except Cloud Manager settings. Cloud Self-Service User has access to create environments, view environment details, and My Settings page. Once you have entered the security, click Next to view the summary. A summary of your selections is displayed. If you are satisfied with the selections, click Submit. The template was successfully created. Once the PeopleSoft administrator has created the template, a self-service user can quickly provision an environment based on an existing template. From the Cloud Manager homepage, select the Environments tile. We will create a new environment for the HCM pump source. Enter the name and description. Use the pump full tier template that was just created. You have the option to pause provisioning after the infrastructure is created. If selected, you can do additional setup, actions, or operations on the newly created environment outside of Cloud Manager before proceeding with the PeopleSoft deployment. The topology section displays the default topology for the selected template. If more than one topology is associated with a template, you can override the default. This environment will be created in the availability domain defined in the template. Expand the full tier and enter the required credentials. You can also change the values for the other attributes if required. Where applicable, validations are performed. Here the password does not meet the minimum requirements. Correct the error and enter the additional credentials. In the General Settings section, you may choose to enter a unique database name if this template is used for multiple environments. You can also make changes to the domain settings for the web server, app server, process scheduler, and process scheduler server definition parameters. For the PeopleSoft client, you need to provide the Windows Administrator password to log on to the Windows client environment. After you have entered all of the information, click Done. The environment will begin provisioning. You can view the grid or the card. The status is initiating. This status will change to provisioning. It will take some time for the environment to provision. You can check the provisioning status by selecting the Details action. Select Provision Task Status. You can then expand the section to view the activity status. You can see what activity is in progress, as well as the start and end time for completed activities. When the provisioning is complete, the environment will show running. To view the environment details, select Actions, Details. Click the Refresh button to get the current environment status. Click the environment name to view a diagrammatic representation of all instances and domains running inside the VM as shown. Green indicates the component is running. Hover over a component to see the component details. Next, we will look at an example of how you can use Cloud Manager to provision environment instances on Oracle Autonomous Linux. There are several steps involved. We will look at each of these steps. The Oracle Autonomous Linux images are posted on the Oracle Infrastructure documentation page. Select the image, then find the image OCID for your region. Copy the OCID for the image. To update the Cloud Manager instance with the Oracle Autonomous image, select Cloud Manager Settings, Infrastructure Settings, and paste the OCID for the Oracle Autonomous image into the Image OCID field. When you save the page, you will receive a message that the infrastructure setting was saved and you need to refresh the OCI metadata. It will take some time for the OCI metadata to refresh. You can check the status through the Process Monitor page. When the refresh is complete, you will see a green check mark for the Linux image and the timestamp of the OCI metadata refresh. You will need to create a custom script to install the packages required for the PeopleSoft deployment. This is an example of the script. To upload the custom script, navigate to the repository. Select Upload Custom Scripts. Use the Add icon to attach script files. Select the script file from the local device and click Upload. When the upload is complete, click Done. Once the script is uploaded, you can include it in the template or add it when creating the environment as a pre-provisioning activity. For this demo, we will add the script when we provision the environment. On the Environments page, select Create Environment. Enter a name and description. We will use the multi-domain topology. Expand the DB systems and enter the credentials. In the General Settings section, add the pre-provisioned custom script. Add the credentials for the middle tier. We also need to add the pre-provisioned script to the middle tier. Add the Windows Administrator password for the PeopleSoft client. Add the credentials for the ELK stack. Then add the same pre-provisioned custom scripts in the general settings for ELK stack. Click Done to start provisioning. When the provisioning is complete, the environment is running. If we look at the details, we see the middle tier is on Oracle Autonomous Linux. Cloud Manager supports on-demand scaling in OCI, which is the ability to scale up or down horizontal scaling by adding or removing nodes to an active running PeopleSoft environment as necessary. You can scale up an environment by adding additional middle tiers to a running database or middle tier. Middle tier nodes are added one at a time. Multiple middle tiers, Application Server, Web Server, Process Scheduler Server, and Windows are supported. Note that adding and removing Linux middle tier nodes is not supported for full tier environments. To scale down, you can remove nodes. Multiple PeopleSoft clients are supported. Therefore, you can add additional PeopleSoft clients as needed. You can also add or remove Windows middle tier nodes. A Windows middle tier node contains a process scheduler domain and is required to run Envision reports. You can also add an ELK stack. Adding an ELK stack is only available on environments where the integration broker domain was configured in the environment by Cloud Manager. ELK stack includes Elasticsearch and Kibana. For this demo, we will add a node to an environment that has a middle tier, database, and PeopleSoft client. Select the action to perform, add or remove. The types available will depend on the environment. For this environment, you can add ELK stack, middle tier, or PeopleSoft client. For middle tier, you can select the operating system, either Linux or Windows. We will add a Windows middle tier node. Expand the settings. The App Home and Cust Home paths are not mandatory when adding a Windows middle tier. The new node will be added to the existing region and availability domain. Select the shape for the new node. The Windows middle tier node contains a process scheduler. The Envision feature is selected by default. In the Custom Attributes section, enter the Windows Administrator password. In the General Settings section, select the Envision mode. Select the subnet for this node. To start provisioning the new node, click Submit. The environment status is Add Node in Progress. Use the Details action to check the provisioning status. Select Provision Task Status and expand the activities. When the Add node is complete, the environment will be running. When you check the details, you will see the new Windows middle tier node. Using File Storage Service, referred to as FSS, multiple middle tiers in an environment can share PS Home, PS App Home, and PS Cust Home. First, you need to create a file system in OCI. The file system created for the Cloud Manager repository can't be used for a mid-tier node in a provisioned environment. In the OCI console, select File Storage, File Systems. Select the compartment and click Create File System. Select the Edit Details link for the file system information. You can use the default name or provide your own. We will enter a new file system name. The file system should be created in the same availability domain where the middle tier VMs for the environment are located. We will accept the defaults for the export information and mount target. Click Create to create the file system. This will create the file system, mount target, and export path. The file system is created. Click the export link to ensure you have read-write access. Now you can create an environment that will use the shared file system. For this demo, we will use Lift and Shift to create the environment. First, enter the new environment information. On the Advanced Option page, select the Target Database On and the PeopleTools version. On the Custom Attributes page, enter the availability domain and region. The environment should be in the same region and availability domain as the file system. Expand the File System Linux mid-tier section and select Yes to use FSS for mid-tier. Select the file system. A potential loss warning will appear. This is a new file system that we just created, so it does not contain any critical data. Select the mount target and export path for your file storage system. Complete all the credentials and subnet information for the middle tier, database system tier, and the PeopleSoft client. Click Next to review and submit to start the provisioning. When the provisioning is complete, the environment will be running. You can view the environment details. Use the refresh button to display the details. To add an additional middle tier node that will share PS Home, PS App Home, and PS Custom, select Manage Node. In the Select Actions section, select to add a Linux middle tier. In the Settings area, we will copy from the existing middle tier node. Expand the File System Linux mid-tier section. This node will share PS Home, PS App Home, and PS Custom. You can use all of the values copied from the existing middle tier node. However, you can only have IB configured on the first domain. In the Domains section, expand the App Server settings and select No for Enable IB settings on the first domain. Click Submit to start provisioning the node. The status is Add Node in Progress. When provisioning is complete, the status is running. When you check the details, you will see the URL for the second middle tier. For additional information, you can access these resources for PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. The Cloud Manager homepage on My Oracle Support includes installation and implementation information, as well as additional resources for your environment. View Cloud Manager in the PeopleSoft Information Portal and go to the PeopleSoft Technology blogs to get the latest updates about Cloud Manager. Go to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure documentation for information about OCI services and features.